Okay, so whilst I'm just doing like a very minimal amount of makeup for the day, I thought I would tell you how I overcame horrific adult acne. When I was a teenager, I never ever had any spots, like none whatsoever. I completely escaped teenage spots. I always had oily skin, but I didn't go through the rigmaroles of teenage acne. So I was like, oh yay, oh yay, 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 yay. So I started having my periods when I was about 13 and they'd always been fairly consistent. I didn't really have any issues in terms of like heavy periods, missed periods. It was all just very like, routine, on time. So then I went off to university when I think I was like 19. And then I suddenly, and I mean suddenly, for no apparent reason, my periods just stopped. Like they stopped. And I know you're probably thinking, well, you were at university, like you were probably not really like taking good care of yourself. You were probably like eating a really bad diet and drinking a lot of alcohol and partying and not getting enough sleep. You would probably think, oh well, there's probably like loads of like obvious factors as to why maybe your periods could have like stopped. To be honest, like I was not that bothered. I was like, okay, fine. It wasn't like a big thing. I wasn't really worried about it. But then I started to break out in spots. And I'm not just talking like 1 or 2 spots. No. I'm an extremist. Okay, I don't do things by halves. It wasn't just like a 1 spot kind of situation. No, it was like an entourage of spots. So the spots were kind of focused in like very specific areas and they didn't deviate, like they did not go off track. They were very consistent spots. So I always got them on my chin, like my chin was definitely the worst area, and along my jawline. I very rarely got them like anywhere else, like higher up on my face, just the chin and the jawline. So if we're to believe, I think it's like Chinese faceology, I don't know if that's the name, but they have identified like certain areas of your body are responsible for different things. So then if you have like a flare up somewhere, you can kind of link it back to the organ that may be causing it. So for example, like with the chin and the jaw, they say if you get spots in those areas, most likely it's to do with hormones. So I stopped having periods, then I started to, just break out in the worst acne. It wasn't just like a spot. It was, the kind of like swollen, like under the skin, mountain, like Kilimanjaro, and they were always like deep under the skin and they were just like throbby and irritated and just so painful. And I think a lot of the time, when people get spots, say if you maybe just, and believe me, there's never a welcome spot, let's face it. I don't know anyone who would be like, oh, hello spot, how lovely for you to join me, stay as long as you like, make yourself comfortable, you're such a delight. Like I don't think anyone actually is happy about having any spots, but these were like the most aggressive, like angry kind of spots. So the lack of periods thing, it didn't really bother me that much, honestly. It probably should, but it didn't. But the spots thing did. On the one hand, it was because I was self-conscious. I felt like, I had to cover them up all the time. You feel like if you're talking to someone, they are just focused on the spots. They can't see anything past the spots. So it really does affect your confidence. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, it's like narcissistic. If you're like so concerned about your appearance, it chisels away your confidence. So that was bad. And at first, I think that was like the most predominant like concern that I had. It was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like my self-esteem is just slowly dissolving. So yeah, there was definitely an element, which I think everyone has if they have a spot or just anything on their face that wasn't planned for. You're going to feel like a bit self-conscious. But the worst thing was the pain, how uncomfortable they were. Because the spots were like so like deep in the skin, were throbbing. And I can remember it so clearly now, even though it was like 15 or so years ago, I can remember the feeling of my chin and my jaw throbbing. I want this video to be positive because I remember like back when I was really worried about this. And by the way, the lack of periods wasn't an issue at first, but then became an issue when I was thinking, I wanted to have kids. So I'll probably do a separate video on the periods thing, because it's a whole other kind of video, which again, I don't have advice or anything, like I'm not an expert, but I think it's always really useful if somebody is going through something and they share like the things that help them or the cure. Because I remember like back in those days, it was just like Google, and it's so annoying. Like if you've ever suffered with acne, and the first thing people always say to you is, oh, just drink more water. Well, make sure you're eating, fruits and vegetables. You make sure you're getting enough vitamins. And those comments used to offend me so much, because there's many things that I am not, but the one thing that I am, fucking healthy. And I'm sorry to swear, but I am healthy to a fault. In fact, I'm like neurotically healthy. I don't eat sweet. Well, I do. I like sweets. Okay, I love sweets. Okay, but apart from sweets, I don't eat chocolate, don't eat cakes, don't eat biscuits, don't eat pizza, don't eat chips, don't eat burgers. I live a vegetarian diet. It's veering on vegan, because the only thing that stops me from going vegan is milk, because I love milk in my coffee in the morning, and cheese. Oh my gosh, cheese. How could I ever turn my back on cheese? I just couldn't. And all I drink, apart from my coffee in the morning, is green tea and water. That's it. So it's super insulting then when people are looking at you and saying, oh, just change your diet. And it's like, my fucking diet's fine. And then they're like, oh, make sure you wash your face, cleanse your face. Yeah, I do. I've got a really good skincare routine, right? So I underwent lots of kind of hormone tests at the hospital, which I'll probably go into more in the video about the lack of periods thing, because it's more related to that. They took blood tests from me once a week for 5 weeks, and that was so that they could see how my hormones were like fluctuating over those 5 days. After many visits to the doctors, visits to the hospital, tests, the only reason that I basically got, and even it was a bit like, the doctors didn't seem like 100% convinced. I don't know if at that point they were just thinking, oh my gosh, get this girl out of my face, like she's doing my head in. I think they was just like, right, look, she's got a bit of low estrogen. Let's just, tell her that. Okay, that's what we're going to go with, okay? But it kind of makes sense, really, because I've done a lot of research since, and I have found out that if you do have a low estrogen as a woman, it can lead to lack of periods or irregular periods, and also it can lead to acne, adult acne. I'm sure you've probably gone through medical issues in the past where you've just been searching for an answer, and you get to the point where you've been searching for so long, you're not really even that fixated on the cure anymore. You just want to understand why something is happening. That kind of mystery in a way becomes more intoxicating than the actual cure. But I suppose that ultimately it would lead you on to the cure anyway. But so the doctor's suggestion was for me to go on HRT, which I wasn't really into that idea. So they suggested the contraceptive pill. And then at this time I was working in a customer call center, and there was a girl there, and she had suffered really badly with what I think is probably very similar hormone influenced adult acne. And she told me that she took a contraceptive pill called Dianet, and she said, look, within 3 months, literally my spots, they were cleared up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to get myself some of this Dianet. So then I went to the doctors, requested Dianet, and they were like, okay, fine. And they gave me a prescription within 3 months. And I've been on Dianet on and off for the past kind of 15 years. And what I've noticed is it takes about 3 months to actually really start to work and make a difference. And then similarly, if you stop taking it, about 3 months after you stop taking it, then the spots usually start to return again. So it's not a permanent cure, it's just a solution. So anyway, right, so the reason why I'm making this video today is because I wanted to just say, if you're struggling with adult acne, I would definitely obviously under the guidance of your healthcare professional, I would definitely look into Dianet. There are other contraceptive pills as well that are available. The one I'm actually on now is called Yasmin, which is very similar, and both Yasmin and Dianet are known for being really good for clearing up skin. Doesn't work for everyone. For some people it kind of exacerbates the issue, it can make it worse. So, I mean, this is just I'm telling you my experience, but I feel like anything's worth a try, obviously under the guidance and expertise of your healthcare professional. I took the Dianet, it's literally 3 months, problem solved. Problem solved, no more spots. I basically took the Dianet up until the time when I wanted to try for a baby. And then I kind of stopped Dianet. The spots, I think they returned a bit in the interim between stopping and then getting pregnant. But the amazing thing is, during my, both of my pregnancies, I didn't get any spots. So I wasn't on Dianet and I didn't get any spots. And I feel like that is because when you're pregnant, your estrogen levels rise. So again, that for me, that's more kind of evidence and maybe conclusive proof in a way that the issue was that I had a low estrogen, and that was what was causing the lack of periods and the hormonal acne. I suppose someone could have low estrogen and not experience those symptoms, but I just feel like to put information out there and to share experiences, it can be so valuable. Because at the time when I was trying to research what could be the problem, and I was going to the doctors, and I didn't really hear anything about the estrogen. So anyway, I don't know if it's even, it probably is a known thing, who knows, I don't know, but I just want to share my experience in the hopes that it may help someone else, because I know how horrific and how soul crushing acne can be. Just to let you know where I'm up to now, I'm not on Dianet anymore. With Dianet, it does come with a lot of health warnings. There's a lot of risks associated with it, as there are for all the contraceptive pills. The risks are it can increase your blood pressure, which in turn can potentially cause deep vein thrombosis, and it can also, I think they've linked it to a higher risk of breast cancer. So you do, obviously you have to go under the care of your doctor. Obviously they have to prescribe it anyway, but they do carry risks, as everything does. But Dianet in particular, they do stipulate that I think you can only be on it for 6 months at a time. So I was on and off it in between my pregnancies, which was kind of fine because I wasn't on it for a long period of time. But then after I had Andreas, who was my last pregnancy, I must have been on Dianet for about 2 years, and my doctor kept bringing me in for reviews, trying to take me off it, and literally I just stood my ground and I said, look, I'm happy to sign a disclaimer to say that I fully understand the risks associated with this medication, but for me the pros outcome the risks, and I didn't really have anyone in my family that suffered from deep vein thrombosis or breast cancer, and also I have low blood pressure all the time. I appreciate the risks, and I was very well aware of the risks, but I was just a lot more scared of the spots coming back. We were going through this kind of relentless kind of review process, and I was standing my ground. But then one of my many doctors, who, because I think they all get fed up with me, so I get passed around a lot, but the final doctor that I spoke to, she was like, okay, right, fine, I understand you really want to stay on Dianet, I get it, but why don't we try something else? She referred me to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist recommended Accutane, which it sounds crazy because at that point my now my skin's clear. I've not got any, I've only got my moisturizer on. So at that time, my skin was absolutely clear, perfect, no spots whatsoever. It was a bit strange to be talking and being recommended Accutane, which if you know anything about Accutane, it carries, well, if we think Dianet carries risks, Accutane, it just comes in and just shits all over those risks. If you Google Accutane, you're just going to be met with horror story after horror story after horror story. So of course I was reluctant, but then I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm getting to the end of my being able to keep getting Dianet. So I thought, I'm just going to go for it. If I don't like Accutane, or if I have any issues, I'll stop. I went through the whole Accutane treatment for 6 months, which is rigorous. So rigorous, which again I will do another video on. But luckily for me, I had no side effects other than my lips got a bit dry and my skin got a bit dry. So I was very, very lucky indeed, and I know that's not the case for everyone, but I was very like set on if I had side effects I would have stopped it, but luckily for me I didn't. So I finished my treatment about a year ago now. Throughout the treatment I was still taking Dinette, but I made an agreement with my doctor that I would switch to a different contraceptive that was less risky. So that contraceptive, and the contraceptive I am now on, is called Yasmin, and I have to say Yasmin's so far so good. Like, she's doing a great job at keeping the skin clear. Every day I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate every single day having clear skin. So I just wanted to make this video today just to say, if you're struggling with adult acne, teenage acne, like whatever kind of acne, I just hope that this video has given you some things to maybe look into. Their hormone levels. Do you have low estrogen? Dinette could be a possibility, maybe Yasmin as well, which has been successful for me. Also Accutane, but that's worst case scenario. All you ever see, I feel, on the internet is horror stories. So I will make a video on the whole Accutane thing, because I actually had a really good experience on it. But it was a strange one, because a lot of the time with Accutane, you'll see people will do like a timeline from the treatment. So they'll do like day one, and their face will be like really covered in acne, and then they'll do like a monthly update, and then you can see as they go along the skin's clearing up. Well, I did not have any of that, because you know, my skin was fine all the way through. I'm gonna go because I feel like I've talked so much and I've done my makeup. But if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments downstairs. I'll be happy to answer like anything. And I'm gonna make a video on the Accutane journey. And I'm also gonna make a video about the lack of periods, and also how I did end up conceiving, because that's a whole other story in itself. Because basically I was infertile, so I had to go through fertility treatments to conceive. And then anyway, I will do another video on that soon. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go. But I hope this video will at some point maybe help someone. If you're struggling with acne, please know that it will get better. You know, it will. It will. Just hang on in there. But you've got to be your own advocate. Like, you've got to do your doctor's heads in. You really do. Just keep like pushing until they just get fed up of you, and they have to do something, because these doctors these days, not all, but some, can be a bit shit. No with disrespect, but it's like with anything in life, you've just got to be your own advocate, and you've got to fight for things these days. So you fight for what you need. Anyway, I'm going to go, but thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.